Hello and welcome to Arced Out of Nature, Harrison's Cave, Barbados. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. As always, I'm pleased that you have chosen to spend the next 30 minutes with my guest. In last week's program, two individuals who had the good fortune of working with Harrison's Cave from its inception shared their memories and wonderful experiences of those early days of working here. Linda Christian Clark, who was a tour guide, and David Pinks Carrington, who worked during the tunneling and later became a driver until his retirement. In this week's program, three ladies who have given the cave collectively 92 years of service and counting. They will continue that and speak about their experiences of the early operation here at the cave. We begin with tour guide coordinator Jolene Gibson, who joined the cave in 1987 and had earlier spent a considerable amount of time working in guest services in the hotel industry.
First, it was intimidating in that even though I had worked in the industry, I had worked at a hotel, the front desk, and it meant that dealing with persons but not in the volume like at Harrison's Cave. So automatically it was dealing with different cultures at the same time, a larger mass of persons. So that was the initial thing that I had to get over.
My only intimidation when I arrived was people that we had to service. In those days, your head is spinning, you're dealing with people, but not one-on-one as you would like, but people are all around you. So I was wondering in those days whether I would be able to handle that, really. But then over time, it became very easy for me to do. I love to deal with people, whether they're children, whether they're adults. You know, I just love to deal with people.
Later in the program, you will learn more of her enjoyment of the job here at Harrison's Cave. Meanwhile, Joanne Jones looks back at the need to be flexible and to be willing to perform other functions not necessarily designated as yours, all in an attempt to maintain the smooth running of Harrison's Cave back in those early days.
I came up here as a cashier, receptionist cashier, and then throughout the years I moved on to clerical officer, senior clerical officer, and now in my current position as marketing coordinator. In 1982, the atmosphere among the workers, what the feeling I got from the workers was that it was like a sense of ownership. They were a part of this magnificent operation, this wonder of the world, and they were proud to be able to showcase it to the many visitors that were coming through. The visitors themselves, they were very excited to be coming to this new attraction, and were absolutely in awe with the formations and the whole product of the Harrison's Cave.
I remained as a tour guide for a good few years. I enjoyed the job immensely.
You would recall that in a previous program, Linda Christian Clark and David Pinks Carrington did speak about the same camaraderie and the staff's members' understanding that they were providing a service to the public, hence their willingness to avail themselves to function in various capacities from time to time.
In the early days, there were not as many staff members as we have now. And there were times when, even though I might have been the cashier, management system, whatever you called it at that point in time, there were times when, in the absence of another staff member, that you know, it wasn't just you stuck to your role wherever you were needed. So in the absence of a tour guide, or on the days when we were short of tour guides, I would sell a tour and go and do the commentary for that tour and come back and sell another tour. just to get those people off instead of just saying, well, we don't have any tour guides. We couldn't say that, you know, but we tried to get them off as quickly as possible. So you just fit into whichever role that was necessary to get the visitors to see our product.
In those days, the complement of tour guides, of which I was one, it was a small complement, and we used to travel with snacks in our pockets. The snack of choice was Eclipse biscuits. That's how we survived. You would just get a nibble here or there, or biscuit and water. And, you know, that's how we were. A lot of the majority of the tour staff that we still have here are persons who came, you know, from that time and with that level of commitment and things like that, and that background. So we still have that strong base of staff.
In the earlier days, the tram tour was the only tour available. The trams were built in the 1980s, hence the 1980s technology.
The vehicles that we have going through the cave now, they were not, in those days, they were not quite as, what should I say, magnificent as they are now. And they were, some days there were some breakdowns. I think it was because of the heavy workload.
Something I should mention too, in those days, the trams were made that we couldn't see what was going on behind us. So the tour guide was not facing the guests. But I do prefer now how we are facing, because we can interact and we can see people's discomfiture or, you know, pleasure and so on.
We had some quite competent mechanics and electricians who would come on this and get things rolling as quickly as possible. But of course, if there was a breakdown inside the cave, you had 36 persons. We used to take 36 at that time inside the cave, and it was a matter of trying to get them, keep them calm.
And I did find that persons would find me to be the person who would calm them. Like if we were waiting for any length of time, I would be able to go into a room and explain to them, well, look, the wait is going to be such and such, but such and such is the case, and pass a joke here and there and put them at ease. So much so that some of them would say to me, but you really are an asset to this company, because, you know, they were angry about the wait, but then I was able to put them at ease.
If you had someone who claimed to be claustrophobic, you had to be extra special with them, trying to calm them and make them realize that it's not the end of the world, that we're all going to get back out of here safely. It's just a minor inconvenience. But in all that, I took the opportunity to give a little more information about parts of the cave that might not have been in the script, and also of the island itself and other attractions in the area and on the island.
I tend to be a person who can talk. So that's my strength. So I have had moments where, yes, we had the impasse, where we had to wait for some while, and so, but I would always think of something to say, even if it's a joke, if it's some folklore story, things like that. So I can fill that spot. We've had several of those, and yes, we would have had to move back and forth quite a lot by foot and try to avert anything of that nature.
In terms of tram breakdowns, yes, I had quite a few of those in my day as a tour guide, and the communication system at that time was not like this one, where the trams had radios. We had intercom systems at strategic points. So it meant sometimes if you had a breakdown, remember there was one where we had a breakdown, and it was either yourself or the driver to decide who would stay with the visitors. You had to get off that tram, and I was much younger then, and I ran from Cascade to the lower level. Sometimes you put a flashlight on the ground to indicate, so the person will see there's a blockage. You can't come down in this area, and then you run back to Cascade. So I had those days.
Today they look back on those early days with much laughter and amusement. In another program, you will learn how those original trams were replaced through the efforts of project manager and architect Steve Devenish and his team. Now, any unexpected occurrence might lead to an unpleasant situation. How did these ladies deal with that?
There are just some persons that you cannot please. There are just some visitors who are difficult, and sometimes you would recognize that they come to the compound with various issues. It may be something that happened on the ship. It may be a family matter, things like that. And you can't take it personally. There are some times when afterwards and we are able to share information and debrief, we can laugh about it, things like that. But there's some times when you're thinking in your mind that this is what I would like to tell sir or ma'am. But, you know, you can't do it because of the role you're playing. And afterwards you can laugh about it, but your thing is sometimes you have to think of yourself as the buck, the last, it stops here. And you get some persons that may come with personal issues, nothing to do with yourself or the staff, but by the end of the tour, sometimes they may give the driver or the tour guide a heads up and say, you need to think. And it may just mean that the tour guide may be able to pay them a bit more attention, take a picture with them, things like that. And by the time they come off the tour, you are able to turn around whatever negative situation they came with, because sometimes Harrison's Cave is the only stop or the last stop and your last opportunity to redeem Barbados in their eyes.
Any area where I am dealing with people, I feel comfortable. If I had to sit behind a desk and with inanimate objects, I really would not function very well, but I really like to. And I love particularly to see people laugh and smile or be comfortable, or to diffuse a situation where the person was, you know, not that comfortable, but then they become comfortable. I feel like my job is done.
With increasing number of cruise ship passengers who visit the island with an itinerary that includes visits to a number of heritage sites all across the island, how difficult is it now to market a full tour to Harrison Cave to these visitors? Marketing coordinator Joanne Jones.
It's not difficult. You just have to try to get the visitor to understand that we will not shortchange them. We will not reduce our product, water down our product, and they should spend the extra time to see what we have to offer. In saying that, though, we recognize that the type of visitor has changed over the years. In the past, we would have had, when we had hundreds of persons here during the day, I remember at one time we could have, like, by 12 o'clock, we had 500 people through the cave already, and another 500 persons waiting. But they would take the beach towels and lie on the grass, drink some beer, and wait until the names were called. Now you have the visitor who is on the go, so to speak. Everything must be done now. And whilst we quite understand that, you know, for them, they're only here for a short while, like I said, we can't afford to water down our product. We want to give you the full experience, so we try to get them to understand that.
It starts with our reservation department. They usually handle the bookings and the allocations. I manage a team of 7 tour guides and 5 drivers, and then we also have 4 ATIs. This is one of the relatively new positions, and they deliver the newer tour products in addition to the signature tram tour, along with the tour guides and drivers. Now, how do I manage? My first thing is getting to know the market and knowing the behavior of the cruise ships, because that is what drives most of our visitor base. The cruise ship, they make it the majority of our visitors. So knowing the ships and their behaviors, you're able to schedule persons on the days that you know that there will be ships where the volume of persons will be heavier. That's something, knowing that. And then, because we also accept walk-ins, which is persons who do not have a reservation, and we're open 7 days a week. It means that we always have to be prepared to service persons who had not booked, and we also expected to give them the same level of service as the ones who had pre-booked. So sometimes the task seems impossible in that the cruise ship passengers or the tours may not always, as things will happen, arrive at the time they're scheduled to. It means being able to think on your feet, to reorganize, and like you said, in times like that, we are able to have a capacity of 4 trams carrying 32 persons each within the cave. It also means coordinating with the underground staff, making sure we have a team of 4 persons ready to go. And in a given day, you have to be able to deal with things like, rearrange your lunch hours sometimes. And I must commend the staff, because there are times when the only way we can service the patrons is to work continuously without a lunch hour. And sometimes we may take a break at 1:30. So that is one of the key factors in managing it, is not sticking automatically to a schedule, but whatever happens on a given day, being able to recalibrate, so to speak, rearrange yourselves, the staff, get them to cooperate, and which most of the time they willingly do.
Sometimes we can't always say, well, look, we will be able to eat at such time, because sometimes we might have planned a lovely meal and might be looking forward to that lovely meal, but then you will find yourself then inundated with persons, and you can't very well leave them if you don't have the core group of staff. So you have to, sometimes your lunch hours fluctuate.
My job is made easier because in instances where it may be hard on them, that they're willing to go the extra mile, forfeit a lunch hour, defer their lunch time, things like that. So that is what makes it easier, in the staff understanding that this is the role they play. And on any given day, once you are at Harrison's Cave and you put on your game face, you're not 100% always. Some staff will come and say to me, I am not 100% today. So I understand, what is happening with them. But once you see that visitor, it's your Harrison's Cave welcome face, and you try to give them the best experience that they can have.
International publicity has brought many an interesting visitor to its tunnel to enjoy this art out of nature. The ladies on this program have come into contact with many interesting international figures during their time.
We have had some of the soap operas filmed here in Barbados and at Harrison's Cave. We had The Guiding Light and The Bold and the Beautiful. In more recent times, we had the filming of Britain's Next Top Model. They were here as well. We also had a number of celebrities passing through, albeit they wanted to do it quietly.
We have had occasions where celebrities have gone with regular staff. But on rare occasions, there are celebrities who would wish not to go with others. So they would actually say, well, look, we need that tram for us. So they would just buy the entire complement of the tram, and they would go on their private tours. We have had those occasions.
We recognize them, or some of the staff would recognize them. Basketball players, actors. We had Tyra Banks coming through. We also do a lot of filming for Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. Also, they would get some footage from Harrison's Cave as well. We also had Miss Barbados, Shannon Harris, coming through, and she had to do a piece on the island, and she did part of the footage here as well. So we get our fair share of celebrities coming through.
I got to meet some very influential people as we know them today. I would have met persons in the film media, as well as professional singers, athletes. I would have met persons like Billy Ocean, Skeeter Davis, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Katy Perry. I've met Martin Lawrence, actor. I've met Iyanla Vanzant very prolific writer for black women. And I've met Sir Shridath Ramphal, which was something that I really treasured because my mum, who is now passed, she was a great fan of his. She loved the man and his voice. And I said to him, I said, sir, I would have loved my mum to have met you, but it's a pleasure. You know, so quite a few influential people. Of course, Prime Minister Thompson, who is now deceased. He was, I was the tour guide for him as well. Yes, and he really enjoyed it. He and I had that rapport on the tour. So quite a few people that I would have met.
A special point of interest on the tour is the altar. Over the years, many have been proposed to or were united in matrimony before the altar. And tour guide Hyacinth Thompson have witnessed many of them.
We did have an actor, whom I will not say or name, but he did propose because he had read up about Harrison's Cave and he knew about the altar that we had. So he brought the lady with him and they went on the tour, just he and this lady. And the moment he got to the altar, he proposed. So thankfully she did say yes. I was, you know, we were pleased that she did say yes, but I think he was being safe because he didn't want a tram filled with people just in case she would have said no.
Of course, because of its increasing publicity, this matrimonial point of interest in the cave has now been incorporated into its marketing strategy. Who would have thought that the end product of this simple act of assembling some broken formations at this point in the cave would have generated so much interest and that its iconography would resonate with so many visitors?
We have had weddings in the cave. We have had persons just spontaneously too, while I'm on tour, who knelt down right at the spot and proposed, and I would encourage everybody, look, something is happening here. So we would all train our eyes on these people then and see what was happening.
Testing, testing, welcome to Harrison Cave. You're about to experience this journey of a lifetime. In her 27 years as a tour guide here at Harrison's Cave, Hyacinth Thompson has conducted over 30,000 tours through the cave. And while she has come into contact with many individuals and left a lasting impression on their lives, there are, however, two memorable experiences that have left indelible impressions on her life.
Something I should really mention too that made an impression on me, I did take a Russian scientist through the cavern and he was so impressed that he spoke to me for about an hour after the tour. He said he was reluctant to visit because his wife was prompting. He had been to Barbados for years prior and he never thought this would have been much of a cave on such a small island until the wife at that time prompted him, let's go. So he said from the time he arrived at the compound, he said this has to be something very special because from how they have set it up. And from the time he entered, that man was impressed. And then he said to me, he said to me, I never expected on such a small island you would have such a treasure. He said it is clear it is a young cave, but it has a lot of character. And he and I had a discourse for about an hour after the tour as to what he would have seen in his years as a Russian scientist and the caves he would have visited and how ours compares favorably with those ones. You know, makes me feel proud. My most memorable though would have been some guests from New Zealand. And they were fascinated by my name Hyacinth and they had asked me if I'd ever seen the flower and I said regrettably no. And these people went to the trouble to actually send me bulbs from New Zealand. The bulbs were kept in quarantine for a month or two, which is the norm. When I did receive the bulbs, one was dying, one was dead, and one was still alive. I did try to plant them, but without success. But they did send me some flowers as well, and they told me they wanted them to grow in my garden. So that was a real precious, you know, just by doing a tour, these people connected with me in that way. Yes.
The tour guide coordinator, Jolene Gibson, does have a memorable experience. In fact, it seems to be a recurring special moment for her here at Harrison's Cave.
I did a promo in Trinidad. I've never seen it. It's aired in Trinidad. And very often they come to me and they say, I want to take a picture with you. Or I say, good morning. And they say, I know that voice. I say, you know me? Yes, I've heard that voice in Trinidad. And I said, but I did this over 20 years ago. Or they say, you sound the same and you look the same. And I was like, wow.
Jolene Gibson, Hyacinth Thompson, and Joanne Jones are three contented ladies who have enjoyed lives of service here at Harrison's Cave. They are very pleased to know that because of their good work ethics, they have successfully played their part in bringing in the much-needed foreign exchange to Barbados.
In a few years, very shortly, we will be looking to change the face of Harrison's Cave because all of us would have been transitioning into retirement, more so, but with happy memories.
I still love the product that I'm offering, which is the cave. I think it is very beautiful.
I feel like I've been blessed. Most days I don't feel like I'm coming to work. I think because I'm doing something that I love. I've always loved hospitality. So I kind of just fit right in and enjoy every moment of it. I would have to confess I don't like to be away from work once there's work going on. But I've had a good time here. I've had people say to me, how can you work someplace for 35 years? And I'm like, it wasn't actually work for me. I just got paid to be happy in what I'm doing, my hobby, my love. And I always say to them too, and if I had to do it again, I would do the same thing, maybe with a little tweaks, but I wouldn't mind doing it again. I just love my job.
It has often been said that the secret of finding joy in work is contained in one word: excellence. To know how to do something well is to enjoy it. Having spent some time here with these three ladies, there is absolutely no doubt that they were aware that their work was going to fill a large portion of their lives. And the only way that they could be truly satisfied was to do what they believed was great work. And the only way to do great work was to love what they do. This has been Art Out of Nature. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. Until next week at the same time, it's goodbye for now.